Inside Number 23, my podcast, which is all about knitting and sewing and generally living the craftiest life possible. My name is Katie and you can find me on all of the various social media platforms as misslavelli, so do please say hi. And you can also find our podcast group for Inside Number 23 on Ravelry. If you just search Inside Number 23 in the groups tab, you will find us, and that's where you can get involved in KALs and general lovely chatter, and that's also where I put all of my show notes for this podcast. So first of all, a huge welcome back to any of my long-term viewers. Thank you so much for coming back and spending a bit of time with me. It's been 2 weeks since I spoke to you last, so I appreciate you coming back. And also a big hello and hi to any new people who have joined us this week. Let me start off by saying thank you again, lots of thank yous to start this episode, for all of your well wishes and support last week. I didn't record last week because my lovely little pug puppy Rolly, it's not really a puppy, he'll be 2 this year, but he'll always be a baby to me, was quite unwell last week. He had a severe allergic contact reaction to something, probably pollen induced because spring has sprung here in the UK. But he was so uncomfortable that he couldn't sleep. He was constantly scratching, and because he wasn't sleeping, he was keeping us awake, so it was this big thing. But I am happy to say that little Rolly is doing incredibly well now. He is so much happier. He's been on antibiotics, he's finished those now, and he is back to pretty much his full self. Rolly is absolutely fine. Thank you to everybody for sending him love and well wishes, and to myself and Emrys as well. It was so appreciated, and it's just really nice to be back with you again this week. So yeah, I am in the UK, obviously. As I said, I podcast from Hertfordshire, which is just north of London, the UK, where I live with Rolly the pug and my husband Emrys. And like I said, the weather has been really lovely over the last couple of days. Spring is here, although it's still a little bit chilly occasionally, which I like because I can still enjoy all of my knitwear, because the second that it starts getting warmer, I get sad when I have to put all of my woolens away. I have a couple of little bits of admin before we get started on all of the yarny goodness, so let me jump in straight away with some kind of exciting news for me. I think it's exciting, although I completely understand why other people may not find it exciting at all, and that is I have created an email address for this podcast. At long last, I have a specific email for Inside Number 23, so that all of your questions and queries and wanting to get in touch regarding anything has a place that is just for that, and I'm so excited. The email address is katie@insidenumber23.com. So if you have any questions or queries regarding the podcast, or if you want to get involved in prizes for giveaways, or you just want to contact me for anything, please send me an email to katie@insidenumber23.com. I'm going to be getting into some of the details as to why I've decided to create this specific email in my general Waffle segment at the end of this week's podcast, getting into some personal bits and pieces this week. But a kind of basic idea, I have been getting a lot of traffic on both Instagram and personal messaging, which doesn't always let you know when you have messages, and my Ravelry mail, which is getting a bit ridiculous because of the amount of messages that I have in there. Plus, I really don't like the way that you can organise Ravelry mail. It's just not particularly helpful. So I finally have a place for you guys to get in touch. So from now onwards, I will be going through my past messages that I have in both Instagram and Ravelry, but if I get any messages from now onwards, I will prompt you to email me directly, and obviously I'll include that email in all of the places about the podcast. So yeah, drop me an email, a little bit of electronic owl post, shall we say. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. I feel quite cool to have a personalised email address, to be honest. Also, we are currently having a KAL on this podcast. I am hosting the Harry Potter KAL. It's a year-long knit-along, and I draw prizes for that at the end of each month. I will be opening up the April finished object thread, hopefully later today, so get your posts in for that. And if you want further information about the Harry Potter KAL specifically, head over to the Ravelry group. I have a video posted there with everything that you need to know about that KAL. One more thing before we get on to all of the knitting knitting-y goodness. This episode is going to be a little bit weird today. It's Easter Sunday, so happy Easter if you celebrate, and if you don't, then I hope you're just having a really lovely and enjoyable weekend. Because it's Easter Sunday, Emrys and I are going to be heading over to my parents for lunch to spend it with my family. It's very exciting, but in terms of a podcasting schedule, I'm not going to have time to record everything before we go, so there is going to be a little bit of an intermission, and then I'll be coming back to you later. It's not really going to make that much difference to you guys because when I edit it, everything's going to get squidged together into one, but bear in mind the lighting may be different, the kind of energy level may be slightly different, so it may feel a little bit jolty, but we'll do the best that we can with what we have, and I just really wanted to still be able to give you an episode this week as I didn't have one last week. So yeah, a little bit all over the place, but it's still all here for your viewing pleasure. And without further ado, I'm going to move on to my first segment this week, which is of course, what am I wearing? And this is kind of going to lead directly into what's on my needles this week, because the beady-eyed amongst you are going to realise that what I am wearing this week is actually a finished object that I haven't shared with you on the podcast before, and that is my Pavement sweater. Oh, so this is the Pavement sweater. It's a pattern by Veera Välimäki, and the yarn that I have used is Tusken knits, the incredible dyer Maria of Tusken knits, in two of her colourways, which I'll show you by standing up in a second. I have striped them. The first colour is Pigwidgeon, the second is Just a Rose, and this is on her fuzz base, which is a blend of merino, mohair and nylon, and you guys, I am in love with this sweater. I'm going to pop up and in a very awkward way kind of show you how it looks. So this is the sweater, and you can see the striping here. We've got these little rows of the dusky pink in with the grey. So for those of you who haven't seen this sweater before, this is so awkward, I apologise. But I started the cast on, this is a top-down design, with just Pigwidgeon. So the entirety of the yoke is just that kind of beautiful speckled grey colour. And then when I had separated for the sleeves, I started to knit with some of the skein of Just a Rose. And the way that I kind of alternated is I would do 3 rows of Just a Rose to 6 rows of Pigwidgeon. I managed to get that done for the entirety of the sweater, and I'm actually going to do an Amy Florence of Stranded now, because I'm going to hop on the chair so I can show you the hem. So Amy, this is your fault. This is entirely inspired by you. And Amy, incidentally, is the first person I saw knitting a Pavement sweater, which made me want to knit one. So this whole thing is her problem. Okay. So here's my hem. And as you can see, it's got this lovely kind of scoop to it. It's really cute. And the entirety of the hem is been knit in the Just a Rose colourway with a garter edging. And as you can see, my sleeves, which are just below my elbow, couldn't remember the name of that, just below my elbow, are also finished with a nice thick stripe of Just a Rose. Oh, Amy, I don't know how you do that pretty much every week. It's quite exhausting getting on and off the chair, but that's probably my age speaking more than anything else. But in terms of the sleeves, they are also striped with the lovely pattern. Well, pattern, it's just a stripe of 2 different colours, but I love this sweater, as I was saying. It has genuinely been the thing that I want to wear more than anything since I finished it. It's probably a combination of how lovely the yarn is with the pattern. It was a pleasure to knit. It flew off my needles for a fingering weight sweater, which is actually quite long and is a lot of stocking net stitch. It just didn't take any time at all, honestly. I've already got plans for another, although as you know, I'm not going to be kind of purchasing any more yarn kind of in the near future. But part of me wants me to make an exception for this sweater because I just want another one so much. It's a really lovely thing to wear. You can throw it on over pretty much anything. I'm just wearing a kind of basic t-shirt and a skirt underneath it, and it's just beautiful. One more thing about this sweater, I have over the past couple of days been trying my very hardest to update all of my Ravelry project pages. It's a process and it's taking a little while, but I am getting there, and I do actually have a page dedicated to this sweater. sweater. I've named it my Beauty and the Beast sweater for a couple of different reasons, because the Just a Rose colourway, the pink in the striping, was one of Maria's Beauty and the Beast Yarn Club colourways, which is just so special. So I thought the combination of that colourway with Pigwidgeon, who is technically a fantastic beast because he is an owl from Harry Potter, it just felt very appropriate to kind of call it Beauty and the Beast. Plus I saw that movie when I started working on this sweater, the new live action version of Beauty and the Beast, and I've been listening to the soundtrack non-stop, so it feels very, very appropriate, and plus it's one of my all-time favourite stories, so to name one of my all-time favourite sweaters after that just felt appropriate. So you can find it on my project page as my Beauty and the Beast sweater. Lots of talk about my lovely, lovely sweater. I'm really, really happy with it, in case you couldn't tell. But I think that gives us a nice little segue straight into what's on my needles. Because this week, yes, I have one finished object, I'm wearing it. But in addition to that, I have 2 more finished objects. Can you believe it? 2 more finished objects. I know that I've been away for 2 weeks, but still, having 3 finished objects in a week really feels incredible. So obviously my first finished object is my Beauty and the Beast sweater, which I love and I'm so happy with it. But I'm very excited to say that another project that you have seen previously is also finished now, and that is my Patronus Shawl. Here it is, my Patronus Shawl. I can't even tell you how amazing this is. I'm going to show you the whole thing over my face, obviously. Here it is, and all the way to the end. So I test knit this beautiful shawl. I'm just going to drape it around my shoulders now because it's so gorgeous. There we go. I finished this on Wednesday of this week, just gone, just in time for the release of the pattern and the yarn kits of this shawl, which were released on Thursday of the week just gone. So this was a test knit, goodness I can't speak, this was a test knit for a collaboration. The collaboration is Madeline Windsor of Kingfisher Knits and Nora George Yarn, lovely Tracy of Nora George. So Madeline made the pattern and Tracy supplied the beautiful, beautiful yarn for this project. So this is the Patronus Shawl. As you could see from when I showed it to you, it's asymmetrical. So it has this lovely kind of long diamond shape, or kind of triangle shape on one end, and then it's a little bit shorter on the opposite end, just here. It has a lovely kind of variety in the pattern. You have these lace sections, you have a lot of garter striping, and it's just so much fun to work on. The colourway that I chose to work with is Harry and James's Stag, which, if you can see, I'm just going to take this off again, is this beautiful mahogany brown as the kind of block colour. But then in between we have this really, really gorgeous speckled, I just think of it as like forest colours. There's green, there's a bit of the brown, there's orange. It's beautiful. I mean, you all know, you'll know if you watch my podcast how much of a fan I am of Tracy and the yarn that she creates. But I mean, so clever of Madeline to take those yarns and create such an interesting shaped shawl. It only requires 2 skeins of yarn. I know that Tracy's kits for this pretty much sold out, the pre-orders, on Thursday. I am not entirely sure if she is going to be restocking them, so it might be worthwhile getting in touch with her and seeing if that's going to happen. If not, just buy more of her yarn, one of her speckles and a more kind of solid colour to go with it. But the kits are really, really special. They're all kind of based on Harry Potter characters and their Patronuses. So for example, I know that there are, there's the Lillian Snape's Doe colourway, which Danny of Little Bobbins did her test knit in, which was just, oh, so beautiful and soft and delicate, quite different to the real kind of contrasting one that I've done here. The thing that I would say as well, I know that you can purchase the pattern separately, so I will link the pattern in my show notes down below. So if you just want to use your own yarns for the pattern, then obviously do that. But if you can get hold of one of Tracy's kits, I can't speak more highly of it. This yarn is beautiful. Oh, it's so snuggly. It's so snuggly and gorgeous, and I love it, and I'm really, really happy to have it finished. Just a huge thank you for letting me get involved in this, both Madeline and Tracy. I really appreciate it. I love the finished product. It's a perfect entry for the Harry Potter KAL, as it's kind of screaming Harry Potter in every aspect. And I just love it. I just like holding it. It's so soft. But yes, my second finished object of this week, and I'm pretty thrilled with that one as well. Now, my third finished object is quite a funny one, because this isn't something that I have ever shown on the podcast previously. I shared it with you when I bought the yarn, because this project is using yarn that I purchased at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. But I cast this on this week, and it was kind of a reaction to the whole situation with Rolly. I really, really wanted to be knitting on something that was just pure, unadulterated joy. And it turned out that this project was the one that was calling my name. I've wanted to cast it on ever since I got back from Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and it's not actually a project for me, which is a real turn up for the books, because as you'll know if you watch my podcast a lot, I tend to just knit things for myself because I know that I'll appreciate them. But you will have seen a bit of this project if you follow me on Instagram, and a lot of people were kind of losing their minds over it because it's very, very different from what I usually work on. And for that reason, I have absolutely loved it. It's just been amazing. But let me show you what it is, and you're probably going to die about how amazing it is. Isn't this just the best thing you've ever seen? Oh my goodness, you guys. It's finished and you hadn't even seen it in progress. This is how quick this project is. It flew off my needles, and look at these colours. Isn't it just amazing? So let me introduce you. This is the Colourfield shawl, which is just incredible. I love this pattern. I can't speak more highly of this pattern. It's genuinely one of the most enjoyable knits that I have done in a very, very long time. It is by the incredible Kemper Ray, who is Junk Yarn. The podcast and the yarn dyer and everything that she does is just... She has this meticulousness to everything that she creates, but it's still so fresh and exciting. So it's not kind of overly... planned or anything like that. It doesn't have any kind of forced feel to it. It feels effortless, but you can tell at the same time that so much effort has been put into every detail of everything that Kemper does. Basically, I'm a huge fan of hers, and I have been for a very long time, and so to finally work on one of her patterns was just an absolute joy. So it's a double knit weight shawl, and you use 2 skeins of DK weight yarn. And as you can see, I used 2 very different colours than I'm used to using, and that is because this shawl is a gift for my lovely, lovely mum. And the funniest thing is she doesn't know that it's finished, and I am going to give it to her when we go to lunch today as an Easter present, and I'm so excited. I just can't wait to give it to her. But pink is my mum's kind of signature colour. In the same way that I am very much a burgundy person, my mum is a pink person. I always go for the burgundy and the red, and she always goes for pink, so I had to pick some beautiful pink yarn for her. And this yarn is Hedgehog Fibres. I picked it up from the a Yarn Story booth at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So that's a Yarn Story. They're based in Bath. And the 2 colours that I used are Jelly, which is this hot pink colourway, and the kind of speckled colour is Film Noir. And just look at how beautiful they are together. I love that the Film Noir has little bits of pink and red along with black. I just think it adds such a bit of interest to this shawl. And the thing that I love about the kind of neon pink of the jelly colourway, which you can see very clearly along the edge there, is that it also has red in it, which I wasn't expecting, because when you look at it in the skein, it's kind of so neon pink that your eyes kind of, you know, your retinas are burnt out of your head from looking at this colour. But as you knit it, occasionally you do get these little kind of areas of like kind of really vibrant scarlet red, but again, it works so well. This flew off the needles. You know, I said that my pavement sweater flew off the needles. This, I think it was knitting itself when I put it down, to be perfectly honest. I could have very easily, if I had had a couple of days off, just sat and knit this in 2 days and bound it off and everything. I love everything about this pattern. I already have one planned for myself. I bought yarn for that as well at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, so let me quickly grab that to show you. So in contrast to the kind of hot pink madness, my colours are these two, which are just, oh, I love them. And this is Merino DK by Labiana Me. I have shown this to you before, but this is going to be my version of the Colourfield shawl. And to be perfectly honest, I'm tempted to cake these up and get started on it right away, because it just was so quick that I think I could have one by next week's episode if I cast this on and just focused on this. But that would be naughty, because I do have lots of other projects on the needles, but you know, do what makes your heart happy and all of that. This pattern is paid for, so I'm not going to give away too many of the details, but I love it. It has this really, really lovely bind off as well that I've never used before. It's called an Icelandic bind off, and it was so fun, and it's given this such a beautiful edge on it. Like, when I talk about details and how Kemper really thinks about details, something like that, just adding in a slightly different bind off to just make sure that the project was going to be perfect. I mean, I love it. I'm so happy with it. I'm so excited to be able to give it to my mum, because as I've said before, my mum, I genuinely feel, is probably the most knit-worthy person in my life. And I haven't knit anything for her. Well, not for a very long time. So this is special because it's incredible yarn, which I'm so happy that I'm going to be able to give to her. A pattern that I just adored from start to finish, and I'm so proud of it and so happy with it. The fact that I get to give it to, you know, my best friend, who I know will appreciate it so much, is just, it's a little bit overwhelming, to be honest. But yes, this is my Colourfield shawl, my first Colourfield shawl, which I've also created a project page for on Ravelry. I've called it the Jelly and Ice Cream shawl for obvious reasons. But what I may do now is insert a little bit of video of me giving this shawl to my mum so that you can see it and see her in it, if I can get her to do that on camera. But fingers crossed I can, and if I can, I will insert that video here.
Thank you. I think I know what this is. Pink. Look at that. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Look at it.
I know, it's good pink.
How do I do it? Let me help you. Rolling, look.
Ta-da! I'm going to play with it. Really likes it. So that's all of my finished objects for this week, but I am very happy to say that I have been working on a couple of works in progress as well. So in addition to finishing up 3 really quite big projects, I have been putting a little dent into one project, and I may or may not have cast on something new. But it's all from stash, so I don't feel bad. You can't help yourself sometimes. Like I said, do what makes your heart happy. But my first kind of work in progress is I have been working on The Doctor Who socks that I am knitting for Emrys, these were supposed to be knit for the Stripy Socks KAL, which lovely Candice of Pin Feathers and Pearls is hosting, but that has now closed and I have one sock and part of another sock, so these are not going to be eligible for that, unfortunately, but I still love them, and it's been really nice working on some socks. It's been a while since I have done, so this is the first one, and as you can see there's no heel because I am going to be doing true afterthought heels, inspired again by Candice of Pin Feathers and Pearls, because her recent afterthought heels look incredible. So I'm excited to do that. I will be cutting my knitting to do it, so that's a little bit intimidating, but here is the work that I've done on the second sock. So as you can see, this is how much I have put onto it in the last couple of days. I did move this up a little bit. So all in all, I've done about this much of the sock over the last couple of weeks, which I'm happy with. It's nice to be getting kind of solid progress on a sock project. This yarn was a part of the Doctor Who Valentine's Day kit that I bought not so long ago, but it is Valkyrie fibres. They do incredible yarn. Look at it, look at this, it's so good. But it is the Allons-y colourway, and it's based on my personal favourite Doctor, which is the 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant, and I just love it. It's so pretty, so pretty. And I'm very excited to get these off the needles for Emrys, because again, a very knit-worthy person who I don't knit for as much as I should do. So that's what I've been working on. And I have my little gobstopper ball, which makes me happy every time I see it. It's such a fantastic thing to have. But in addition, like I said, I decided to cast on something new. And this cast on was kind of fueled by the fact that I wasn't feeling 100% yesterday. I was very, very tired. I had to do a lot of driving yesterday as well, because I went to Nottingham to get a tattoo. And so I had to drive 2 hours there. I was there for around about 2.5 hours for the tattoo, and then drove 2 hours back. So I was pretty exhausted, feeling a little bit sorry for myself, feeling a bit beaten up and bruised as well. As well, you'll know if you've been tattooed yourself, it's not particularly comfortable just afterwards. So I wanted something that would make me feel better. So I decided to cast on a project that I have been wanting to work on for a while, and also after working on my Colourfield shawl, I realised that all I wanted was to work with DK yarn. I've been doing a lot of fingering weight projects recently, you know, my Beauty and the Beast sweater, my Doctor Who socks, which incidentally are on my Ravelry page under Socktor Who. I amuse myself, I really, really do. I amuse myself. Linked below in my notes, obviously, but yeah, Socktor Who, because they're Doctor Who socks. But yes, I really, really enjoyed working with the DK yarn of the Colourfield shawl, so I decided that a DK yarn project was needed in my life. I didn't want to cast on another Colourfield shawl right away because I thought I don't want it to lose its magic, so I thought I'll cast on something else. And from the episode 2 weeks ago, you may or may not remember that I showed you this yarn. So this is Knit Picks Capra, and it's a DK weight yarn, and it's an MCM base. So it's merino cashmere. Actually, it's not MCN, it is just merino and cashmere. So it's an MC. It's an MC base, so merino and cashmere. It's as soft can be, and I absolutely love it. This colour is turmeric, I believe, and this is black. And you may recall that the project that I wanted to cast on is a cardigan called Trolley Dodger, which was designed specifically for Knit Picks and for this yarn. And it's kind of a baseball cardigan style garment, and I've loved it for the longest time, and I really, really wanted to cast this on to just bring myself a little bit of happiness. And I thought, again, because I'm working from stash, it doesn't feel bad that I'm casting on a new project, even though it kind of is, but I don't care. I do have serious plans to work on 2 of my other sweaters this week, so I figure why not cast on something new at the same time. I've just got 3 projects off the needles. I have to reward myself some way. Anyway, all of that aside, I have done a very little bit on this because I just cast it on, like I said, last night. And here it is. Oh, I love it already. Don't these colours just look wonderful? I am naming this cardigan my Hufflepuff Pride Cardigan because, as you can see, I am using Hufflepuff colours. So this lovely kind of golden mustard with the black. This is going to be my Hufflepuff baseball cardigan, and I really can't wait. I got gauge straight away when I cast on this project, which for me recently has been really weird. My gauge has loosened up a lot in the last several months, but for this I was spot on. So I am using the needle size that is quoted in the pattern, which is 4.5 millimeters. I'm using my trusty higher sharp interchangeable set, and at the moment I've just been working on the ribbing of this, so it's not particularly exciting. It is done in one piece, the whole body, so it's just a bit of rib and then a lot of stockinette stitch, I can see from the pattern so far, but I just love it. And I love this yarn. It is beautiful. I would say it's not as fun to work with as the Hedgehog Fibres yarn that I used for the Jelly and Ice Cream shawl, but I wasn't expecting it to be, because obviously this is mass-produced yarn in comparison to the gorgeous indie dyed yarn that Hedgehog Fibres is. But just working with something that's a heavier weight is really lovely. And obviously I'll want to start knitting heavier weight sweaters and cardigans when the weather is starting to get warmer and I won't be able to wear them for another 6 months or something ridiculous. But it's so far been a real joy, and this took very little time, even though I am working on, I believe, something like 200 stitches, that or thereabouts, which is quite a lot of stitches, but it's going really quickly. And I know that once I get onto the main body, which is pretty much just stockinette stitch, it's going to fly. So that is really exciting. And like I said, it's something that I've had plans to cast on for a long time, so to finally get it on my needles and get it started is really satisfying, and it's nice to be just shopping my stash and working with what I already have, rather than spending too much time mooning over all of the lovely skeins of yarn that are available online that I do want to buy desperately. And with that, guys, I am going to take a little break here, a little intermission, so that I can head over to my parents' house for lunch to celebrate Easter with them. I will be back with you later for a couple more segments, but I will see you a little bit later. Hello again, my lovelies. So it's quite a little bit later. I've just got back from my parents' house. I think it is now 20 to 7 in the evening. So this episode is kind of stretched out over quite a long time frame, but let's pick up from where we left off. So I just finished talking about what was on my needles, and I feel like we should move swiftly into owl pose. So the little owls have been particularly generous over the last couple of weeks. And some lovely individuals have sent me some really beautiful things, and I cannot wait to share some of these things with you. First of all, I want to do a particularly big hello and shout out to Merryl. Hi Merryl! And Merryl got in touch with me recently through Ravelry because she inundated with me with some beautiful patterns, and I am so thankful, Merryl. Honestly, she sent me some patterns that I have been wanting for the longest time. It was completely unexpected, out of the blue, and like I said, just so generous. And in particular, over the last couple of weeks, there have been a couple of times that have been a little bit difficult with work, and then obviously Rolly health wise, and having such a beautiful outpouring of love was just incredible. So Merryl, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. But as if that were not generous enough, she actually ended up sending me some goodies in the post, which I just can't. I can't. I'm gonna share this with you pretty much straight away, because I'm gonna try and speak properly. I've had a break. I need to get my teeth back in. But basically, Merryl, watching some of my past episodes, noticed that I was mentioning a particular yarn company, a particular yarn that was dyed by that company, and she decided that she wanted to send it my way, and I am so grateful. And that yarn is this. I can't tell you how excited and happy I am to have this. So this incredible dyer is Mother of Purl, whom you may remember me talking about previously because they were generous enough to provide me with my daddy's little monster yarn, which I actually used to make a pair of socks last year. Obsessed with that yarn, obsessed with these kind of colorways which are inspired by the Suicide Squad movie, and this particular colorway is just called Ha 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 Ha, and of course it's inspired by the Joker in Suicide Squad as played by Jared Leto. And it comes with two contrasting skeins of yarn, so the purple and the green for kind of heels, cuffs and toes, or alternate kind of colours. But the main colour itself is a blend of the green and the purple, but also this incredible kind of peachy pink tone that kind of goes into the greens and the purples with fluorescent pink. And I am obsessed with this. I know Suicide Squad, it wasn't the best film by a long shot. And since I've started reading the Suicide Squad comics, I've really come to appreciate how different it was from the original idea and how many things they changed. And I've rewatched the film since I saw it at the cinema. And I still don't think it's great, but the two characters that I still really loved were Harley Quinn and the Joker. So to have this yarn to kind of add to my Harley Quinn yarn just makes me so incredibly happy. I love it so much, and I just want to cast it on right away, which is not great because I have so many socks on the needles. I really can't cast this on right now, but I'm so tempted. I mean, wouldn't you be? Look at it. Oh my word. Incredible. Thank you so much, Merryl. The next parcel that arrived this week, the owls must have been incredibly tired when they brought it over because it came in the most delicious big box, and I love deliveries that come in a big box because you always know that there's going to be something exciting in there. And there's a little story involved in this package. Basically, when I went to Unravel and went to visit my lovely friend Amy's booth, Amy of Stranded Dyeworks, her booth buddy was her lovely friend Nikki. And if you watch Amy's podcast, you'll know that she always references Nikki, saying that she's a bad influence and that she makes her buy yarn and all kinds of things. I mean, when I met Nikki, she said, I'm not a bad influence at all, and it's not true. And she basically was the loveliest lady, and we had a lovely chat, and she genuinely was absolutely wonderful. So hi Nikki, it was so lovely to meet you at Unravel and get to chat with you, and I really loved our little bit of time together. But Nikki actually positioned to me that she is a very keen weaver, and she has started a little micro business creating blankets out of sock yarn scraps or any kind of yarn scraps that you may have. And Nikki actually generously, so generously, I can't even tell you, offered for me to send her some of my yarn scraps and she would transform them for me into something called an alchemy blanket. This week my blanket arrived and I can't even handle how incredible this is. And so I'm going to fold this blanket in half because it's a little big for me to try and share the whole width, but bear in mind it's actually double the width of this, and I can't even handle how amazing this is. This is my blanket. I'm moving back so you can hopefully see everything. Look at this. This was made just out of yarn scraps from projects that I have knit previously. I mean, granted, Nikki did let me know that, and I can't remember the words, I'm so sorry, but all of the horizontal bits of yarn are from my projects. For the actual long vertical strips, she used some of her own Shetland wool and lamb's wool to do that because she had appropriate colours she said that she wanted to use. So it's not entirely out of my scraps, but it could have been. And it's got these incredible tassels on the end. And I mean, if you know anything about me at all, you will know that I am losing my mind over the colourway of this blanket. I am kind of the autumnal queen. I love everything autumn, all of the colourways, all of the gorgeous coziness, and I mean, there are some really special yarns in here, just kind of, it's what makes me really happy when I go through it, because I start spotting things from projects that I absolutely loved. So for example here, I know that this yarn is actually Wool and Vine yarn, and this is the Outlander colourway. Obviously the orange here is from my Blaster cardigan. That is the Eden Cottage yarn in the autumn colourway. I love having that in there. This colourway, I'm pretty sure, is another Wool and Vine yarn, Gashly Crumb, kind of put in there. I recognise that one. It's so fun trying to find all of the different colourways. Again, here we have Fantastic Mr. Fox by The Fawn and the Fox. That is some leftover that I had from my Find Your Fade shawl. And here we actually have the Aran Weight Blacker yarns that I used for my Wainthorpe cardigan. And something that Nikki suggested is that I try and send different weights of yarn. So you'll notice that there are fingering weight yarns in here, but also Aran Weight and DK. And it just gives it this really nice kind of texture because of all of the different weights of yarn. I know I'm getting a little bit obsessed, but this is just glorious. And like I said, this is half the width, so it's double that. It's huge. It would very, very easily snuggle both me and Emrys on the sofa. Never having weaved, never having done any weaving in my life, I can't really understand the skill involved in making something like this, but just looking at the quality of it and how much time and attention and love has been put into this, I will cherish this genuinely forever. I think it is one of the most thoughtful things that anyone has ever done for me. It's one of the most beautiful objects that I've ever had the pleasure of having in my home, and I'm gonna treasure this genuinely forever and ever and ever and ever. And Nikki, just thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I absolutely adore this blanket. I mean, I'm holding it like a baby. I love it so much. When I say a baby, this is how I would hold my dog if I was snuggling him. But I don't really have words for how amazing this is. But one thing that I would say, if you kind of see this and think, wow, that's incredible, which you should do, I would say get in touch with Nikki on Instagram and see whether or not she can do something similar for you. Like I said, I believe she is starting a small business doing this, and I genuinely think that you couldn't fail to be absolutely 100% in love with one of these blankets. I love mine so much. After I finish recording, I'm going to have a lovely cup of tea and snuggle under this blanket on the sofa and watch some good TV. Bliss. I have one more lovely thing to share with you that arrived in the post this week. The owls have been busy, like I said. One of the things in this parcel I was actually expecting, and I know that I'm on a yarn diet, but I ordered this before I went on the yarn diet because it takes quite a long time to arrive. And you may have seen this already if you are a fan of Amy, Stranded Dyeworks and the Stranded podcast, because it is an incredible skein of yarn, which you may have seen on one of Amy's kind of recent episodes because she just knit a pair of socks using this yarn. And that is this loveliness from Hand Dyed by Kate. And Kate is incredible. She sent me some yarn last year in the Pumpkin Spice Latte colourway. Just beautiful yarn, absolutely stunning. And I had the pleasure of meeting her at Unravel this year. It was so lovely to meet you, Kate, thank you. And she let me know that, because by the time I got to her stall, all of this yarn, which is watermelon stripes, self-striping yarn, had actually been sold out. There was none left, which I was really disappointed about because this is glorious and it's so difficult and complicated to dye that Kate only dyes certain batches of it each year, and I'd missed out on last year and I thought, oh no, I'm gonna have to miss out this year as well. But she let me know she was going to be taking pre-orders for it, but it would maybe take 4 weeks or so for it to arrive. So I was like, that's fine. As soon as I saw it come up on Etsy, I think I was a little bit late, but I still managed to snag a skein. I was very happy. I put my order in and it arrived this week and it is gorgeous. So it comes with this really, really fun watermelon self-striping and this green colour as the contrast for heels, cuffs and toes. And I've got a couple of Kate's sock sets that I purchased at Unravel and I want to knit with every single one of them. I love the saturation of her yarn, and I must say, from wearing my pumpkin spice latte socks quite a lot last year, the quality of her yarn, it stands up to a lot of washing, a lot of walking around, and so I am really excited to have more socks in some of her yarn. But the thing about Kate, which I have come to realise, is that she is one of the kindest and most generous souls alive. And so not only did she send my yarn as I'd ordered, she snuck in some other little goodies. And let me just show you. So first of all, Kate is aware that we are having the Harry Potter KAL, and she decided to send through an incredible prize for the Harry Potter KAL, and that is one of her incredible sock blanks. And this colour, if I can show you here in all its speckledy, purpley, pinky goodness, is called Luna, named for one of my favourite Harry Potter characters of all time. It is a superwash merino nylon sock blank, and I had a little unravel of it to see the kind of colours. There are pinks, there are yellows, there are purples. It is Luna to a T, and I think it is glorious. And not only did she send one for you guys, she also sent one for me. If you thought that that was enough, apparently Kate didn't. Because in the bottom of my beautiful box of goodies from Kate was something that I wasn't expecting but was so thrilled to have arrive, and that is one of her Easter eggs. This is the Easter Extravaganza sock set. So much like the watermelon striped sock set that I have, you get 50 grams of the main colour yarn and 20 grams for the contrast heels, cuffs and toes. But this all comes in this gorgeous Easter egg, which is filled with yarn, and you can see it's all speckledy springtime goodness. You can see the kind of the hot pinks and everything, a little bit of sheepy tape around it, which I think is adorable. I'm not going to get the yarn out to show you because I'm just so happy with it being in this little egg. I think it's adorable, but it's just one of the glorious things that Kate produces in her business. She is such a talented lady. So yeah, I will pop all of her details in the show notes, so do go and check her out, hand dyed by Kate, and show her some love because she is an incredible woman, like I said. And again, Kate, thank you. You absolutely made my day, and it may not be made of chocolate, and I am very partial to a chocolate egg, but this is probably my favourite Easter egg that I have ever received. So thank you. Okay then, that's about everything in terms of all of the creative content for this week's podcast. So we're moving into my final segment, which is, as always, General Waffle. General Waffle. And for this week's General Waffle, which if you don't know, my General Waffle segment is the time in my podcast where I get to waffle on and talk about anything or everything that takes my fancy that week. And this week, things are going to get a little bit personal. Things are going to get a little bit more intimate. It's been a while since we've had a little chat about some specific things regarding kind of how I lead my life. And I thought, considering that I've made a relatively big change in the last week, which is create my unique email address for this podcast, when it comes to messaging, this is a topic that I have needed to address on the podcast for quite some time. This is going to be a little bit personal. So hopefully I will be able to have the articulation to get this out in the clearest way possible. First and foremost, a little bit of understanding about the type of person that I am. And this may be something that you're aware of if you've been a long time viewer of the podcast. It's never something that I've shied away from in the past. But I do suffer from some mild social anxieties. It's something that I have had to kind of deal with for my entire life. When I look back as a child and a teenager, I always considered myself to be a little bit socially inept with people that I don't really know that well. I always kind of joke around with Emrys that the only reason that I was able to kind of communicate with him when we first met is that I didn't have the slightest idea that he would find me attractive or want to ask me out on a date. If I had known that, I would have not been able to speak to him at all. It's been something that I have been working on my entire life. I find that I am much better being social with people. For example, if you've ever met me at fibre festivals, I really hope that I've come across as appreciating you coming to say hi, because as I always say, I really, really do. I love having chats with my viewers, and meeting people in real life is a real pleasure and a privilege for me to be able to do that. But again, in contrast to that, I do have to have times where I decompress, where I have a little bit of space to myself, where I have a good breathe. Remember, my word for the year this year was breathe. And I kind of realign myself. I think I'm probably not alone when it comes to these kind of issues, that I've learned how to be a functioning person out in the real world by having a good balance. But you might think, how does all of this have anything to do with messaging and setting up a specific email for the podcast? Well, let me explain. I know for a fact that when it comes to replying to messages regarding this podcast, I have been pretty horrific since this podcast started. When I say horrific, I am well aware that it's taken me a very long time to get in touch with lots of wonderful people who have reached out to me via various social platforms, be it Instagram or Ravelry. Those two are the main kind of ones that I tend to get messages on. I want to give you a couple of reasons as to why this is happening. Firstly, when I started this podcast, I had no idea that it would grow to become what it is today. The idea of having the amount of you subscribe to this channel as I do just would have confounded me, and would probably have prevented me from starting the podcast in the first place, because I would have been too intimidated. But I never imagined that I would need to have such an open style of communication between myself and so many different people. And the second reason really comes back to what I was just talking about in terms of social anxieties. Whenever I am stressed or going through particular parts of my life that I'm finding more difficult, be it on a personal level, on a professional level, in my day job, or just having a down day, which everybody does from time to time, the first thing that I instinctively want to do is withdraw from social situations. I don't want to reply to any form of messaging because I don't want to talk to people, and it's an issue that I am dealing with. Something that I have found in the past is that when I have found it difficult to reply to messages because I'm at particularly dark periods of my life and I just want to withdraw, my messages tend to build up to quite intimidating level. And let me just say, this is not the fault of anybody who is messaging me. This is entirely on me and how I deal with situations. I am so lucky that you guys want to talk to me, which is why I've been feeling so bad, I think, about the fact that I have been unable to reply to so many of you, because I want to give back to you what you're giving to me. So please don't feel, if you are someone who has messaged me, that you have in some way done something wrong, because that's not what this is about. This is just me trying to explain what's been happening and why I may not have got in touch with you. When those messages start to build up and I have, you know, a huge amount of unread messages in my Ravelry inbox, and then when I go onto Instagram Messenger I have so many message requests and so many other messages, it becomes this massive mountain that is almost incomprehensible. I feel like there's no way that I could ever get on top of this situation, and obviously that just makes me want to avoid it even more. And it all comes back to this idea of this kind of childish way of thinking that if you ignore something for long enough it will go away. That's not how I want to do things on this channel. I am well aware that it's taken me a little while to do this, and for that I apologise. I would like to thank everybody who, when I have eventually messaged them and apologised for my delays, they've been incredibly understanding. I have had a couple of people respond to my lack of messaging as a kind of personal slight. And that is difficult, because something that I would say is that you can guarantee that if I'm not messaging you back, it's not that I have a deep hatred of you, it's not that I'm trying to be rude, it's not that I'm just too busy to ever check my messaging. It is coming from a genuine place of anxiety. And if you can't understand that, I'm sorry that I haven't been able to explain it more clearly, but it isn't in any way something malicious from me. It is an issue that I have acknowledged and I am trying to work through. And that is only a very, very few people who responded in that way. The majority of people have been so kind and so understanding, and I appreciate that. But in the same way, I fully acknowledge that not having, you know, a reply to a particular query or a message for months after the fact is not okay, and that's not what I want to do on this channel anymore. A couple of things to close out this incredibly waffly general waffle. A few things that this entire experience has kind of brought home to me. Firstly, never underestimate how understanding people can be, because like I said, in this situation, the majority of people who I've kind of explained this to have been supportive, have sent me love, have sent me understanding, and have not treated me as though I am rude or stupid or obnoxious, which is how I feel from behaving in this way. Number two, this is going to be the start of a new phase in messaging when it comes to Inside Number 23. I am allocating a specific time each week to go through the email inbox of the new Inside Number 23 email. Can you see why I'm proud about this? It feels like a big step forward for me, even though it's a relatively small thing. It's going to help me take back control over something that has been making me feel incredibly anxious and stressed and worried. One more thing to maybe think about is something that I would always encourage everybody, including myself, is to not necessarily take everything at face value. To understand that sometimes someone may be behaving in a difficult manner that you don't understand because there is more to the situation than can be seen on the outside. When I talk about mental health and my own personal mental health, I know that it may come as a surprise to a lot of people that I do acknowledge that I suffer from anxieties, from stress, from sometimes borderline depression, because what I always try to put out on this podcast is an air of positivity, of looking for the good things in life and looking for the beautiful things, which is what I want in my life, and it's what I want to bring to your lives, and it's what I hope that you tune in for each week. But bear in mind, sometimes even the sunniest disposition is going to have a bit of a black cloud, and sometimes I feel, in a way, you can only appreciate the really beautiful things in life if you have experienced some of the more ugly things. I am actively trying to not just take things as I see them, to take a step back and to really try and understand a situation that may be more complicated than initially meets the eye. And I would encourage you guys to do that too. That was an incredibly waffly waffle. I hope it made sense. When I go back to it in editing, I'm probably going to think that doesn't make sense at all. But hey, it was organic, it was from the heart, it was off the cuff. What more can I do? Thank you guys so much again for tuning in to this podcast. I really, really, really appreciate you coming to spend a little bit of time with me this week. And I'm sorry if it's been a little bit all over the place. Like I said, I took a really major break in the middle of filming this, so fingers crossed everything is cohesive and it works. If you've enjoyed watching, please give me a thumbs up or hit subscribe down below to be kept up to date as to when new videos are uploaded on this channel. As always, I hope you have an incredible week. Thank you so much again for watching, but for now, happy sewing, happy knitting, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye! Oh my gosh. I could wear it as a bow tie. Seriously, how good does that look as a bow tie? This is when you realise you have too much time on your hands, isn't it?